Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to the Andrew Tate Show, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We've got a great show for you guys today. We're going to be covering ESPN and CFP's $7.8 billion extension, the Dallas Cowboys free agents. Then we decided we're going to give you guys some extra oddities of the day. Yeah. Before we start, I'd like to ask that you like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions from the viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donation link with your question. The tips and donation link is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Let's put your question at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also just really helps the show. Sorry, we did like a quick change of plans, and I didn't update my notes, and so
wait. I even listen. People are gonna get behind the scenes even more here. What did you say the first segment was? Because I don't think that's right either.
Is it not?
Wait. What is it? What did you say the first one was?
ESPN has agreed to the $7.8 billion extension, but the CFP has not.
That was not the story. I will roll with that story anyway.
That's what I was sent. That's what I was sent. I was sent that.
I fear no evil. So let's do it. I'm very curious. You're going to definitely have to bring me up to speed. I have to listen to you clearly on this one. So okay. I am not prepared for whatever story you're about to talk about here right now.
Well, this is what I was sent yesterday, so I just want to say that.
Then you had 3 articles that were sent to you, right, about college football. I can't believe we're having this conversation on the air. It was about the SEC and the Big Ten working together and the college football playoffs. That's what we were supposed to be covering.
Yes, but I also got this one as well, and this was the last one that was sent to me, and so I thought...
Nope, that was not what we were supposed to be talking about.
Well...
Surprise! Surprise! Listen, it goes with it, but as I've told you before, I am at the end of the internet, so I fear no conversation anyway. So, okay, behind the scene, a lot of times segment our third and fourth story, I have no clue what we're doing. Mm-hmm. The first 2, I tend to know what we're doing. Yeah. Today, there's like 3 stories I have no clue what we're doing. Oh, so let's do this.
Alrighty. Well, okay. So the ESPN has agreed to a $7.8 billion extension, but the CFP has not. College football's future could receive more needed clarity this week. At least that is the hope of many involved in planning the sport's much anticipated expanded postseason. ESPN has agreed to terms with the representatives for the college football playoff on a 6-year, $7.8 billion extension to televise the event through the 2031-32 season. But the commissioners and the presidents that run the CFP have not yet agreed on any aspects of the format beyond the 12-team model in place for the next 2 seasons, setting up a pivotal few days of meetings. The term agreements negotiated between ESPN and the firm CAA Evolution, which represents the CFP, have been in place for months, but the CFP leaders still need to vote on the deal for it to take effect. Those leaders' inability to reach consensus on topics they were hoping to settle before signing has been described by some executives involved as a mess.
Okay, I understand what has happened here now. So we're doing the behind the scenes in front of. We're having a family conversation behind in front of company, let's say today. Okay. So normally I send Faith like the same story, but 3 of the same stories with different components.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, we sent her two of the same stories, with the third story being an additional layer to it. Faith took the additional layer to the story,
I thought that's what
and
we
that
were.
made that the story. So I did not read this, but I know plenty enough about this. And there's enough overlap that I can go with our original topic and this topic. So we're good to go here. Okay. So this is interesting because of the fact that ESPN has agreed to for a contract for the college football playoffs for after the 2024 season. But the big issue, they've made an offer, but it hasn't been assigned and agreed upon, because the model of what the college football playoffs is going to be hasn't been decided. So yesterday, all the colleges, all the conferences got together, and this is that situation where the SEC and the Big Ten working together threw a surprise on the college football playoffs. Number one, a few things that were, and this is all kind of leaked information. So the SEC and the Big Ten hasn't come out and said, hey, this is what we want. But Washington State's chancellor came out and said this, plus a couple other people that were in the meetings. First off, day before yesterday, they agreed to go with the format of, instead of going 6+6 model for the college football playoffs, they went with a 5+7, meaning 5 automatic bids plus 7 at-large bids for the college football playoffs. Now, the very next day, which was yesterday, they decided to have a meeting for the format going after the 2025 season. And one of the things that was kind of a big surprise is the fact that they talked about how the Big Ten wants it to go to a 14 or 16 team model because they are the largest conference. The SEC is kind of on board with them, as the SEC and the Big Ten are kind of working together. And the big surprise, what has been speculated that is happening here, is that the Big Ten and the SEC are saying the current model is the SEC champion gets an automatic bid, gets in. The Big Ten champion gets an automatic bid. That is not good enough. No. There has been proposals that of the playoffs, the SEC wants 4 automatic bids, and the Big Ten wants 4 automatic bids. Meaning, if they stay with a 12-team playoff, there would only be 4 playoff spots available. Meaning, let's say the Big 12 gets an automatic bid and the ACC gets an automatic bid. That would be 10 playoff spots guaranteed, leaving only 2 playoff at-large bids for the rest of college football. And that includes Notre Dame, which is the biggest name of them all. So this has been a big contentious kind of issue. There's been a lot of pushback because it literally leaves the ACC, the Big 12, the new Pac-12, which would most likely be Washington, the Mountain West and the Pac-12 merging together, two spots for all those schools, not to mention all the Group of 5 schools in there, which makes a very, crazy situation. So they're battling. The Big Ten and the ACC the Big Ten and the SEC are really flexing their muscle. They want multiple guaranteed spots, as much as 8 guaranteed spots for 2 conferences, which none of the schools want to agree on. What they want to agree on is the top 4 teams get an automatic bid, or the top 5 or the top 6 teams get an automatic bid. And right now, the SEC and the Big Ten are flexing their muscles and saying no. And, yes, the SEC and the Big Ten are the two biggest conferences, but what they're asking for is absolutely unfair. Imagine, Faith, if you were going to Clemson or Florida State or let's say Texas Tech or Baylor or one of these other universities, and they're saying pretty much, hey, you guys only get, you know, 2 out of 50 chance to make it, while these other conferences get pretty much all the spots. And not only do they want almost 8 spots, but they want a majority chunk of the money. They're kind of creating a monopoly on the college football playoffs that's going to give them an absolutely unfair advantage. They're looking at it as, if you look at this and you say the Big Ten and the SEC has all the money, the Big Ten has the most, and the SEC has the second most. So they're already able to have the best facilities, pay for the best coaches. Now name, image, and likeness gives them ability to pay more for the players. Then they're going to say, hey, we're going to get a lion's share of the money on top of that, and we're going to get a lion's share of the playoff spots. How is that fair for the American Conference, the Mountain West, the Pac-2, I said Pac-2, and then the major ones, the ACC, the Big 12? How is it fair for all those other schools when they're going to take 8 of the spots? Does that sound fair to you as a person who goes to Baylor? I mean, not to Baylor, but to Georgia. Ooh, I had you transfer. You're in the transfer portal.
Fair at all. I mean, if one of these other teams does really well, there's still a chance that they're not going to get into the playoff at all, and that just doesn't seem fair. Like, I feel this should be based on skill, right? That's how it should be.
Let's give a crazy scenario with this. You go to Georgia. Georgia lost to Alabama and they didn't get in. Didn't feel good, did it?
No.
At all. Sucked, right?
Right.
Imagine this. Notre Dame, the biggest, richest of them all. Richer than Ohio State, way richer than Alabama, way richer than Georgia. Bigger history than Alabama and Georgia. Alabama maybe, but on close to the same level, but not really. Imagine if you're Notre Dame. You go undefeated all year. You're the #1 team in the nation, and you don't even get a bye. The team, let's say, I'm talking like Missouri in the SEC, who has 2-3 losses, just so happen to be, they get an automatic bid because there's 4 SEC teams that are getting in. Then you turn around. Now Notre Dame is undefeated. And then you look and let's say Ohio State's in from the Big Ten, Michigan's in, let's say Oregon's in, but like a 2 or 3 loss Iowa gets into the playoffs because they got 4 spots. The #1 team in the nation, Notre Dame, they would get in because they would get an at-large bid, but they wouldn't get a bye. They would have to win 4 games to win the national championship. Is that fair to a school like Notre Dame?
No.
Is that, when you're talking about 8 spots taken up, and then you say, let's say from there, the next, all the conference champions, the major conference champions. So the Big 12 champion gets in, let's say the ACC champion gets in. Well, if there's someone maybe with undefeated or an undefeated Pac-12 team could easily be skipped out of the playoff on a 12-team playoff, and there's Missouri with 2 or 3 losses, they're getting in. But this Pac-12 team who's won all their games, had a tough schedule, maybe they played Georgia this year and they beat Georgia, but they still can't get in because that's 10 of the 12 spots will be taken up by automatic bids. That is not what when they were talking about doing the college football playoff, that is not what should have been designed. Now, going back to, this is what we were originally supposed to talk about, Faith. Going back to what you were talking about in here. With this, ESPN has already made an offer which has been kind of sort of verbally accepted for the television rights for the college football playoffs. ESPN is like, hey, we need an answer on what the future college football playoff model is going to be. If not, we're going to have to pull this offer because we don't even know what's going on, but everyone is fighting, and you can understand and see why everyone is fighting. Because if you're in the ACC, if you're in the Big 12, if you're in the Pac-12, the American, the Mountain West, you're like, holy crap, this Big 10 SEC kind of, it's not a partnership. Those two teams working together, they're asking for too much. We're just getting scraps over here. Yes, they are the biggest 2 conference, but not by as much as they're making a claim to be. They're going to monopolize the college football playoffs. And right now that seems bad. But then let's say they give in. It means the doom of those conferences. If you're a football player and you're saying, I can, the Big 10 and the SEC have more money, better facilities, you have a better chance to make it to the college football playoffs. They're getting 8 teams in. I can go to the Big 12. I may never see the playoffs now because of the way it's set up. God forbid if you're foolish enough to go to the Big 12. I mean, the Pac-12, which is a merger between the Mountain West and the old Pac-12, or you're at the American. It is slim to none that you have any shot at a 12-team playoff. So if you go to if you look at it and you go the Big 10 route, which is Big 10 wants to go to a 16 playoff, and I think the SEC is on board with this because they are now working lockstep together. They realize they have a really good chance of really controlling things. So even if they go to a 16-team playoff, it's still going to make it harder for these schools to get in. So they don't want to agree. ESPN is like, hey, we need to get things in place so we can prepare, or we're going to have to pull this television contract deal. And so it's making for, things have not been decided. The only thing that is decided is 2024 and 2025. Everything else is up in the air. And I am very curious to see what happens because things were supposed to have been decided last night and nothing was decided. Everything is just crazy. So do you see why that was our starting story?
Yes. That was my mistake. Sorry.
No. I'm just giving you a hard time because it's just because at first when you said that in the leader, I'm like, what the heck did she say?
Yeah, is.
What do you think about this?
I don't understand why the Big 10 and the SEC are trying to monopolize this whole thing. Like, what's
Listen, you're the biggest, baddest guy on the block. You're like, listen, there's only so much cake, and we want 3/4 of the cake. Before everybody got an equal slice.
Mm-hmm.
And they're now looking around like, oh no, we got power now. There's 8 slices of cake. we're taking 6 of those suckers and we're leaving 2 slices for everybody else.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a thing. It is really, the last few years of college football is like this weird soap opera, this weird reality show. Like, you couldn't write this. If you wrote this as a story, it is messy as I don't know what. And for someone that was on the outside looking in until you came over to GSMC, it's kind of surprising what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And you're literally in the heart of the SEC. You're at Georgia, 2 of the last 3 years national champions, Georgia, and you didn't realize how much stuff was going on.
Nope. I do now, though.
And it's kind of cool because you threw me for a loop, which you if I was remotely sleepy or when you started announcing that, I was like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not prepared for this. What is she talking about? But then I realized what you were talking about, so I just kind of made 2 stories into one. So you're totally fine.
Alrighty, guys. Well, with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be discussing the Dallas Cowboys' top free agents on the offense.
Wait a minute. I didn't agree to that. No, I'm just joking. I'm totally joking on that. Sorry, Faith.
Oh, is it Friday yet? Alrighty, guys. We'll be right back.